Goed, broeders en susters, ons het nou by François gehoor van die fetale alkoholsyndroom. En op 'n manier moet ek net nou die link trek, want hierdie hele sessie gaan oor afhanklikheid. Ja, as jy 'n ma het wat reeds afhanklik is of verslaaf is aan alkohol, logies gaan jy met hierdie ma werk om te verhoed dat sy voortgaan met hierdie alkohol gebruik en misbruik wanneer sy swanger is. Want die dilemma is dat 'n mens, ons het dit gesien, baie vroue vind eers baie later, heel wat later uit dat hulle swanger is. En dan is die skade reeds gedoen. En ek is baie bly dat François ook gesê het wat se verskillende programme daar is. Aan die einde van ons sessie gaan ons begin gesels met mekaar. Wat kan ons doen? Wat kan ons in ons gemeentes doen? Wat kan ons in die ringe doen? En vas en dit wat hulle doen, of fast facts, ekskuus, dit wat hulle doen, is iets wat ons in die agterkop nou moet vasbind. Aan die einde van die sessie gaan ons weer daaroor praat. François het begin deur te praat van waar hierdie dopstelsel op die wynplase was. En dis nogal maklik en van daai al mense vraag ook, maar is dit 'n bruin ding, is dit 'n swart ding, is dit 'n wit ding, is dit 'n... Dis vir ons maklik om in te dink dat alkoholisme en alkoholmisbruik op wynplase kan plaasvind. Of kan plaasvind in minder gegoede gebiede of laer sosio-ekonomiese vlakke waar mense so erg stoei en stry en struggle om te oorleef, dat 'n dop is die regte middel, net om weer alles in perspektief te kan sien, en net weer te kan verstaan, hoe moet ek kop bo water hou en. Ons moet dalk net vir 'n oomblik bietjie begin fokus op die ander sosio-ekonomiese vlakke wat daar is. Kom ons gaan kyk na die hoëes, na die rykes. Hulle het vir mense gevra, vir jong mense gevra, wat is jou droom? Wat dink jy is nodig om gelukkig te wees? Om gelukkig en gesond te wees vir die res van jou lewe. En die skrikwekkende deel is dat 80% van die jong mense wat hulle gevra het, ek kan nou nie die detail onthou van hoeveel jong mense hulle gevra het nie, maar 80% van die jong mense het geantwoord om ryk te wees, om baie geld te hê, sal geluk en voorspoed en waarborg. En 'n baie groot en deel van die oorblywende jong mense het gesê om beroemd te wees, om daai, en dit kyk maar net na die jong mense, ek meen, almal van hulle wens, hulle was Britney Spears nie, wie is nou, Kim Kardashian is ook 'n slegte voorbeeld, man, was beroemd. Ja. Ek kyk na my eie kind, ek het 'n dogter van 19, as sy daai TV aansit, is dit op daai Simple E channel, daai channel waar die Kardashians is, en waar die reality shows is, en bla bla bla, al die nonsens. Maar dit is nogal sleg, om, om vir 'n 19-jarige te moet kanale blok. Maar goed, die punt wat ek wil maak, vir die jong mense, wat idols soek, om na te streef, hulle kyk na die rykes, hulle kyk na die rich and famous, en kyk hoe hulle lewe. Kom ons gaan kyk 'n bietjie na rich and famous. Bekende famous mense wat julle gaan herken. Wat sê in die volgende videoklip, no joke, the truth about alcoholism.
When I got sober, I was a bit older than Brittany. I was 29. And Christmas morning, before I got sober, I had been on an all-night bender. I woke up that morning. Now, this is the mind of an alcoholic. I woke up that morning, Christmas morning, and I thought, you know, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to kill myself today. I'm going to do it today. And what I did was, I thought, I made a plan as I'm getting myself together. I thought, I'll go down to Tower Bridge in London, which is the one that goes, you know, that one, and I'll swan dive to my death. I don't know how to swan dive, but I was going to do it. And I thought, by showing, by doing this, I'll show them. I didn't even know who they were, but I was going to show them. I was desperate. I was desperately confused and desperately twisted and turned upside down by whatever the hell was going on in my head.
I went to rehab with a lot of doctors and psychiatrists. And the more intelligent you think you are, the harder it is to let go. You think, I've got a solution. I'll just drink a little bit. It's like saying, I'll just partially circumcise myself. I'll be fine. And then you have to go, nope, you lose. You can't do it. You need help. And at that point, that's the beginning.
My father was an alcoholic, and I can still remember as probably a 9th grader, just waiting at night, not being able to go to sleep at night, waiting to hear a car come up, and you know what tires sound like when they're moving on gravel. You can hear the crunching, and that was. Even though I didn't particularly want to hear him come in his drunken condition, I felt relieved that at least he was home.
Because we have these things called blackouts as alcoholics. It's not really blackouts. It's more like sleepwalking with activities. Kind of strange. I believe it's your conscience going into a witness protection program. It's your conscience going, you're about to fuck a hobbit. I gotta go. Good luck.
So now he's back in our life again because he gets remarried. And he actually met the woman that he eventually remarried, or eventually married, through Alcoholics Anonymous. And I can remember getting a telephone call from the police department in Portland, Oregon. My father and his wife had been found in the garage of their apartment, or the home they had rented, with the garage door closed, and they had left the car running. They both committed suicide because they just couldn't go back through another bout of heavy alcoholism. They knew they were going down that path.
Fortunately, I didn't go too far down the skids. I 15 years and I finally came to my senses, and I'm glad I did. It was a long time ago, and I see people still carrying this monkey on their back. But you think, half the world has been created through intoxication in a way.
Right.
Which is extraordinary, creative power. Because it is. Drink up, but it does. The tragic thing about it is that it's got the scorpion tail. It finally turns around and bites you in the ass and kills you.
I wish that the media, whether it's through advertising or television or movies or whatever, would stop trying to say it's okay for everybody. Because how do you define and decide when it's okay for you and not okay for somebody else?
But I really want to study this whole thing of drinking, getting drunk, and people saying that they're having a good time. Because if you put on a good suit, or whatever, and you say, I'm going out to have a good time. But some people announce it. I'm going out because I deserve to go out, and I'm going to get drunk because I deserve to get drunk.
In my life, alcoholism was not a joke. It was not something that you could say, well, gee, you remember when your dad used to do this? It was not a joke to me to be embarrassed to have my father be with me when he was drunk. Maybe some of my friends would laugh about it, but I can tell you, my two brothers and my mother, living in a basement in a North Dakota city because that's all we could afford, because my father had made a decision. Whether he had any choice in that decision, I'm not smart enough to understand how strong the drive was to have him make the decision. But I will guarantee you that decision was not a joke in our family.
You know, all of us in America and in Scotland and anywhere I've ever been in my life, everybody knows an alcoholic. They're either they've worked for one, or they have one work for them, they have a parent or a sibling or a child. Everybody, there's not one of us. It does, a friend, God forbid some of you poor people are married to them. You know what it's like. Now I have found this. You can't beat it with money. If you could beat this rap with money, rich people wouldn't die. You can't. There's, for me, only for me, and I only speak for myself, so I've got to stress this to you, I have found that the only way I could deal with it is find other people who had similar experiences and talk to them. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost a thing. And they're very, very easy to find. They're very near the front of the telephone book. Good luck.
I don't wanna feel no more. It's easier to keep falling. Imitations of pale.
Is daar enige iemand wat 'n opmerking wil maak oor iets wat julle gehoor het? Ekskuus, ek moes in die begin gesê het, verskoon, daar kom 'n ding van Robin Williams. Mens kan die ou nooit vertrou oor wat hy sê nie, of kon hom nooit vertrou nie, rest die sal. Een ding wat vir my uitgestaan het, die laaste ou het gesê, you can't beat this with money. Een ding wat ons in die hervormde kerk, of nee, wat ons in ons kerke, ek gaan nie nou net spesifiek sê hervorm, baie lief voor is om ons gewetes stil te koop. Wanneer ons as diakonie genader word vir 'n sekere projek of vir wat ook al, is dit maklik om 'n deurkollekte oor te betaal aan 'n organisasie, en dan het ons deel vir Fast Facts gedoen, of vir alkoholiste anoniem, of vir wat ook al. Ek dink die oproep vandag is, kom ons dink verder, wanneer ons nou ernstig gaan begin dink. Verder as geld gee. Dit gaan nie hier oor geld gee nie. Die doel van ons werkgroep, ek het nou uiteindelik kans gehad om die inligtingsblaadjie, daai mooi boek te lees. Die doel van ons werkgroep, wat ons deurgestuur het, is, ons wil julle vandag blootstel aan hulpmiddels wat daar is. Goed, dit daar gelaat. As ons dit reg kry, om iemand te kan begelei, iemand wat op 'n verkeerde pad is, kom ons vat 'n jong mens, kom ons dink aan 'n jong meisie, wat op 'n verkeerde pad is, as ons dit kan regkry, om haar te help en te begelei en te ondersteun, om uit hierdie verslawing of uit hierdie vangnet van afhanklikheid te kan kom, is daar 'n pragtige getuie wat gelewer kan word. Ek wil weer 'n keer vir julle 'n ding speel. Ekskuus, ons looi julle nou, ons overload julle met die goeders, maar dis nogal duur om daai mense in te voer, om vandag self hier te kom praat. Dus YouTube is baie beter. Kyk nou hierdie jong meisie, sy gaan praat, en sy gaan amper meer, ja, sy praat meer met haar hande as wat ek met my hande praat. So, kyk die hande mis. Kyk na haar gesig, pragtige gesig, 'n jong meisie wat dit reg gekry het om betyds wakker te word uit hierdie party mode vangnet wat uiteindelik tot diepe alkoholisme sou gelei het.
I've been looking forward to make this video, and I was doubting whether I should make it or not because I didn't know if it was going to be something that would interest you guys, but I feel in my heart that I should share it with you. Hello everyone, I'm Ravana and I upload videos every single week. Subscribe here, it's free so that you can receive notifications of my new videos. So I have a before and after. Before being Ravana and before starting my YouTube videos, there was a rebel side of me. I always call it from rebel to raw since the beginning. Ever since I changed my lifestyle, it honestly has been the best decision of my life. One of the best decisions that I've made actually was to stop drinking alcohol and to stop smoking cigarettes and stop smoking weed. So it all kind of started when I was about 17, which was the first time that I started to drink. And I got drunk the very first time. So ever since I was little, I would always hear about alcoholism in my family. I come from alcoholic parents. Thanks to God, I never experienced any of that in my house because my parents didn't drink. But it was always like, Joanita, you can't drink because you can be prone to be an alcoholic. I was always rebelling against my parents, typical teenager. And so as soon as I started drinking, I was like, wow, like this is fun, you know? I'm not saying that I regret any of the things that I did. It's made me the person that I am today. But I do say that by the grace of God, I am saved and I am here alive. But I look at people that don't drink and I say, wow, like I could have done so many other things. Because in the end, all of these things are just distractions. When I started drinking, I immediately, when I went to college, I said, okay, I want to go to like the furthest place that I can, like away from my parents, away from anyone that can say anything to me. So I left to Paris and just started drinking more, partying more. And I honestly got into very dangerous situations. I would drive drunk, I would drive drinking sometimes. There were some times when I would get to my house and I would wake up and I'd be like, how did I get home? Like, is the car downstairs? I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there, to live there. But now I see that there were so many opportunities that I could have taken and I didn't. Because I was just this girl that all she cared about was partying. And I think part of it was just wanting to be a part of something. You know, like you're in school and it's the cool kids and what are the cool kids doing? And you want to be part of the crowd. And what is everyone in college doing? Everyone's drinking. That's what people do. And it's not just in college, but it's like throughout life. The norm is to party and to be intoxicated by this drug and just not feel anything. And it went on like this, and then eventually I started smoking weed. So there were just days when I would wake up and the first thing that I would drink was coffee and a cigarette, and before breakfast I was already smoking weed. And it was just, not that I think any of this is bad, but I was really abusing of it. For me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna say goodbye because as soon as I finished college, it's like responsibilities and work and all of these things. So I graduate, I come back, and I still keep going with this lifestyle. I start working and I was very responsible with that, but just like the weekend would come and I'd be just off. Or every day, you know, I would find any little excuse to like drink a couple of glasses of wine or beers or anything. It's like I needed this in order to feel good. I had this anxiety that I needed to constantly like smoke a cigarette or drink. I didn't last very long in San Diego. I went to live to Mexico City, and that's when it really started getting worse. I lived there for 1 year. I was there alone, so all the people that I was hanging out with, it was just more and more and more drinking, and like the hangovers, not just the physical hangovers, which were horrible, like vomiting all the time. I ended up going to the hospital because I needed IV because I was so dehydrated, which was the normal for me. But I think the moral hangovers were getting to me because alcohol, it raises you up to like an euphoric state for a few hours, but then the the next days, it's horrible. It's horrible. So it'd be just like, oh, what did I do? What did I say? I was not respecting myself. I was not loving myself, treating myself in a good way, honoring myself. And I have another video where I talk about my story and how I changed my lifestyle. So I'll put the link to that in the description of this video so you can see how I changed my lifestyle. I now see that I've become such a more productive person. I found my purpose in life, my passion in life. I wake up every single day excited for a new day. And it's no longer like before, like I was just going through this rat race or just this monotonous way of life where you're not really living because you're not present, because you're not in the moment. And now I've learned that, you know, being out in nature, feeding off of nature, like you become so sensitive to everything around you. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm making this video to motivate and inspire anyone who's thought about changing their lifestyle. Just try it for a few weeks and see how you feel. I'm not saying that leaving the past behind is easy. It's not easy at all. It's been a process and I've healed a lot through it, but it's worth it in the end because I really believe that it's the only way that we can evolve as human beings. And one thing that's really helped me is to surrender to God. I know a lot of people hear the word God and they don't like it because they automatically relate it to a religion or to a dogma or whatever. For me, having that higher power where I can just surrender to that and put my intentions out into the world and know that it's all gonna work out for the best and not worry about it has been the best thing. It's the only thing that's brought me peace. It's not the raw foods, it's not the fruit, it's that's what brought me peace, ultimately. So I just wanted to share this video with you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't think it's a coincidence that we know each other and that you're watching this video. Just remember that you're not alone. I'm here. And everyone who's here in this channel is here for a reason because we want to be better and we want to become a better person every day. I'm here to hopefully inspire a little bit of that in you because you have it in you. Every beautiful thing that you see in someone is because it's right inside of you. So I'll leave you guys with that. I'll see you guys next week for another video. Please subscribe, comment, like, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Ag, sy's cute, né? Is dit nie wonderlik nie? Hoe 'n jong mens kan getuig dat sy haar lewe omgedraai het. Dat haar oogies oopgegaan het en dat sy besef het, maar waarmee sy besig is eintlik om so in Satan se struik in te loop. En is dit nie wonderlik dat sy kan sê, al is sy op 'n ander kontinent waar dit 'n groot sonde is, of nie 'n groot sonde is, waar dit 'n groot nou is om oor God te praat, waar sy sê, you must surrender to God. Nog iets wat ons mooi kan aanteken in ons agterkop, want ons moet mense in die kerk en mense met afhanklikheid en mense wat vasgevang is in 'n hok, in 'n struik, help om te kan oorgee aan God.